start. Okay. All right. So basically, oh, hello, Sky Muffins joined as well. So Wild Sky, pretty much what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using Booleans to detect a task system. This is what I've used throughout the Wintertop Farmer. I'm also using it for a Blast Furnace Farmer that I'm making. Um, it's super useful if you want to keep all of your methods inside of one script. So that way you're not, switching to multiple scripts and then having it have to call back to your main script. You can do that as well, but for this specific tutorial, we're going to pretty much use Booleans to detect what task you should be on versus what task you're currently on. It's going to be very, very simple. I'm going to basically create everything for you. I'll run you through it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask immediately and I can explain it. Sheets will be here as well to explain it. Also, when I'm done with this script, I will just go ahead and post it, on the forum so that you guys can download it if you want to use it. But pretty much what we're going to be using, or what we're going to be doing, is fletching, woodcutting, and banking. So a lot of scripts already have this on the forums, but it's just an example that I can use so I can show you guys the task turning true or false, depending on what it should be doing, rather than you guys having to sit through 50 minutes of it doing one task to switch to a new task. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to start fresh. I'm going to run you through pretty much my first thing that I do when I create a script, which is making the basis of the script. So I'll always start with adding any Booleans that I need to do. So for example, we are going to have 3 different tasks. One's going to be woodcutting, one's going to be fletching, and then the other one would be banking. So just for purposes, I'm going to make this super blunt. It's just going to be task is woodcutting. And this is my first Boolean. I'm going to keep that as false because I don't want that to start as true when we start the script. Next task is going to be fletching. And then we're going to create another task for banking. Now, for this specific script, you do not need to use task booleans. It's unnecessary. You could do everything with just a couple checks. But again, just for demonstration purposes, we're going to do it this way. All right, so another thing that I like to do is I like to collect my areas before I start. If I know where I'm going to be, I want to set up, my fail safes to walk to, and then my actual walk to positions or areas. Specifically, we're going to be using Camelot Bank. So I can go ahead and create an area in here, and we can use that. Let me open this up a little bit more. All right, so I've told many people this. I want to basically create a smaller walk to area. That way it's not walking, onto an outer edge of that area. Because a lot of the times, let's say, for example, we choose this whole bank. And obviously, let's say we did poly area. But all right, so we go in here, right? Well, sometimes you may end up walking to one of these tiles out here. And if you do a check for if my player is within area, it won't detect it because you won't actually be in this area. So you normally would want to do, I want to walk to this area here, but I'm going to check to see if I'm within this area. So that's all we're pretty much going to do. So I've got these 2 areas marked out, and I'll just go ahead and add them to the script. So we'll name this first area Camelot Bank. I like to make the bigger area called failsafe, or FS for short. And then just start typing. Okay. And then my next area, oops, sorry. This one's going to be the actual area that I want to call it. Now I did mess up. Normally you want to use an underscore or anything to, like, you want to try to prevent using spaces just so that if you are editing in a text editor, you don't have to click each individual line. If you have everything tied together, you can just double click that line, and it would select that whole line for you. You don't have to try and write everything separate. And I can explain that here in a couple minutes when we go over to the text editor. Um, all right, so now that we have this area, now we know where we're going to be banking, where we want to walk to. Now we also want to add in, we're going to be cutting these maple trees out here. So I can use a poly area, which is pretty simple. You just click on this poly tool. And again, this we're using Explv's GitHub. If you don't know how to get to it, you can either type in explv.github on the internet, or you can go to variables, utilities, open Explv's map right here. All right, so by using this, I can mark out pretty much this whole area that I'm going to be in, and we'll make it a little bit bigger just so that we can detect in case we walk outside of it. But you pretty much just walk, or you mark out exactly where you want to check for your player to be. So this position, or I'm sorry, this area is going to be a lot bigger than the area that we're going to walk to. But this will be our check. So if my player is within wood cutting area. All right, so to use the poly area to implement it into your script, you're just going to go into other variables, area, create new poly area. You'll select all of this here. You press Control C, and then on here, you're going to click Control V. This will paste it in here. You don't have to do anything other than that. And then for the name, I'm just going to name this as Woodcutting, and then failsafe. Okay. And now I want to create a smaller area to go to, which I'm just going to set it anywhere in between here. So we'll just go and add this area in. This one's going to be woodcutting. And for anybody that doesn't know what values you should be using, it's just these values here. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Z-axis is going to be determined by this number here. If you go up on the Z-axis, you'll see this changes to 1, etc. So just changes depending on the level that you're at. Alright, so we'll add this. Alright, so we've got the wood cutting area and we've got the banking area mapped out. That's practically all we're going to do. So first I want to start with if inventory, let's do if inventory does not contain item with text, we're just going to do log or logs, because we're going to be checking for any type of logs. We want to make sure that we do text placement ends with, because that's what that text would ends with. Maple logs or oak logs. Alright, so if inventory does not contain logs, we want to check to make sure that we do have an axe. So we can do if inventory contains item with text, axe. And then the same thing for this one, it ends with, so choose that. And then we're going to do if area does not contain my player. And we want to check the woodcutting failsafe because this is the larger area. Okay, so if all of these are true, let's also check for if we have a knife, because we're going to be fletching. So if inventory contains item, knife. Okay, now we're going to do a walk to area, and we're going to choose a smaller area, the wood cutting one. And we can use the local walker because we're only staying in a small portion. We don't have to interact with any doors or objects, as well as we don't have to walk far on the map. We can choose ignore checks because we don't want to check for any quests that have to be or that were completed. Normally ignore checks would only work for web walker though. And we don't want to disable the camera. We can let it interact with camera if it needs to. Okay, so currently if we played this, it will walk to this area. And you'll see it go there. Now I have my mouse turned off, so I'll turn that on. You can see my mouse right up here. Alright, so now you see how it walks to the smaller area? Doesn't walk to outside rings. It puts you normally like right into the middle of it. Now this is going to keep clicking because this is the only method that we have. Now let's go ahead and add the interaction with the trees, depending on if we are in this area. And actually, let's use that task system. So we could do, well, actually, we need to set up that Boolean to be true. So let's start with that. So if we'll go to other variables, oops, sorry, Boolean, get Boolean value. Get is always a check. Edit is going to be your action. So let's do if Boolean value task is woodcutting. If it's false, okay, and then we want to do if inventory does not contain logs. Sorry, I'm going to paste this, right? Rearrange that. So if inventory does not contain logs, if we do have an axe, if we have a nice, if we have a knife, I don't know why it keeps opening that. And then we're going to check if we are in this area. So if area contains my player, we'll put woodcutting failsafe. Then we're going to set this Boolean to true. And actually before, we're going to show you. Alright, so you can see if you use the variable debug, this will show you whether or not your tasks are true or false. So we can go ahead and do, we're going to edit this Boolean to true. Task is woodcutting true. Okay. Alright, so now if I run this, you'll see it turns true. Alright, so now we can do if our task is true, so get Boolean value. Task is woodcutting true. Okay, and now we'll use this to call upon for the rest of our methods for woodcutting. So if woodcutting task is true, and let's do if my player is within area, woodcutting. Let's also do, we could pretty much just duplicate all of this because we do want to have these checks in here. And then we don't need a check for if it contains logs. We're just going to do a check for if inventory is not full. Okay, so we have if inventory is not full here. Now we can interact with tree or maple tree. So we'll go ahead and do rs2 object, interact with rs2 object. We're going to do an area filter. Actually, I'm going to take that back. We're not going to do an area filter because we're going to have a little bit of anti-ban. I haven't showed this in any of the classes, but you can do interact with rs2 object multiple times, which will allow you to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many times you want. A normal person that's playing is not just going to click the tree once. You're probably going to click it 1, 2, or 3 times. So we do know this action is going to be chopped down, and the name is maple tree. Okay. All right. And so now you'll see if I press play, it's going to go ahead and interact. Now we do have to set up, things to prevent it from interacting. So you see how it's going to constantly, well, actually, hold on. Let me add this different line in here. All right, so we're going to use the same thing that we used the other day. We're going to use the is animating check. It's nice and easy to detect if your player is animating, so we don't have to do a sleep while animating. So all we're going to do for that is we're going to create a new Boolean. Oh, there we go. Boolean is going to be player animating. We're going to keep it as false, and then we're going to create a new timer. New timer, animating timer. Time, we're going to set this as 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. We're not going to keep any random deviation because we just want to check during that time. All right, so we'll do Boolean, get Boolean, I'm sorry, we're going to do my player is animating, if animating.
You're lagging.
Am I lagging? How's this? Is this better?
Yeah, you're lagging real bad for me.
All right, 1 second. All right, is this any better?
Your audio is better, yeah.
Okay. Is the screen still lagging?
The screen's laggy for me.
Okay.
It's got a little bit, definitely got some fuzziness to it.
Okay. Well, I'm screen recording, so I'll be able to post this this video, like it'll be clear on the video for the class. But if you guys can still see what we're doing, then I think we'll just keep going from here.
Oh yeah, I'll still take one, dude. Oh, that looks better. I'm up in there.
All right.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
All right. Let me know if anything changes, and then we'll fix it from there. All right. So going back to that, we're gonna do the threaded animation, or threaded is animating. So if my player is animating, we're gonna start this timer. Start timer. Actually, I'm sorry. We're gonna reset timer. And it's gonna be animating timer. Okay. And now we're gonna check for if timer is running. Timer is running, animating timer. Then we're gonna make this Boolean true. Oops, sorry. Okay, we're gonna make this true. And also what I want to do is I want to add a check here for if this Boolean's false. So that way it's not constantly flicking on your nodes that are running. So we'll do player animating false. Then we're going to set this timer to true. Or we're going to set this Boolean to true. And then now we're going to do if Boolean is false. Okay. If timer is not running, animating timer, then we're going to set this Boolean to, I'm sorry, I have the wrong one. If this Boolean is true, okay, then we're going to set this to false. Okay. All right. And I'll go ahead and edit all this, all the main stuff to the top, and then I'll separate the methods. We'll do that after we get a basis going and figuring out what all we need. Okay, so now we have threaded animation. So now I can add in here if this Boolean's false. Get Boolean value, player animating is false. Now we can interact with this tree. Now we also want to put a sleep method in here right before the interaction. This will kind of prevent us from, you know, only sleeping after it's done or sleeping while we're animating. This will allow us to basically, you know, as a real player, if we're off the screen and we're doing something else, well, now we have this detection, oh, we're done wood cutting. Well, now there's this sleep period before interacting again. So that's why we're going to put this before the interaction. So we're going to do a sleep random, and I'll put 1000 to 4000. And we'll move that above. And then I also want to do a sleep random. We'll do 450 to 850 after. And then we're going to do a move mouse outside of screen. Okay. I'm going to have to edit that out. Hold on. Let's do mother trucker. Okay. Whatever. I'll edit it out. Alright, so now if we go ahead and press play, you'll see, one moment, sleeping, there we go. So it's going to interact it and hit it 3 times, and now it's going to go ahead and start woodcutting. And you'll see task is woodcutting is true. You'll see our animating timer is running, so player animating is true, and that allows us, or it prevents us from interacting again. When player animating turns false, it'll hit the sleep time again, and it'll start chopping again. Alright, so now while this is chopping and it's going to get this inventory full, we're going to start writing the next method. Alright, so we're going to do if inventory is full, let's do if our task is currently woodcutting, that's true, and if the inventory is full, and then we want to make sure that we have a knife in the inventory. Inventory contains knife. Now, this is technically redundant because we have checks for all the other ones, but I just like to add it just as a failsafe. So if inventory contains knife, if the inventory is full, and then we also want to put a check in for if inventory contains item with text, logs. Now, we're only putting that just so that, you know, if your inventory was full with random items, we can still detect that there's logs and we should be fletching. Okay, so now we're going to set this Boolean. We're going to do Boolean, edit Boolean. We're going to turn woodcutting false. Okay, and then we're going to do we're going to set fletching as true. Okay, so now that we have that, we also want to set up a detection for when we should turn task is fletching false. All right, so now we'll just do if this Boolean get Boolean value, task is fletching, if this is true. Okay. And then actually, I'm sorry, we're not going to do this yet because I'm going to show you guys after we get all these tasks written out. I'm going to show you guys how to organize it and put it the correct way. So task is fletching will end up turning true when all this happens. So now we'll do if task is fletching is true. Okay. If inventory contains knife, so we'll copy that and we'll paste it. If inventory contains logs, copy that and paste it. And then we want to do if we'll copy this line up here, if Boolean is set to player animating false. Okay. And then what else do we want to do? So it's logs, knife, player animating is false. Then we'll do sorry, I was checking the screen. We're going to do inventory, interact with item. We're going to interact with the knife. We're going to choose use. And then, which actually we're going to go ahead and stop the script right here because I don't want it to do all this until we have this method done. Alright, so if, we're going to interact with the inventory item knife, and then we'll interact with item contains text. 1 second, there it is. We're going to do logs, ends with, and we're going to do use as well. Okay, now we do want to set up some sleeps in between these because we don't want it to just automatically start doing it. So we'll do sleep random, and we'll do same thing, 1,000 to 3,000. This will be more of like a medium efficiency if you looked at the first class. And then we want to add in another line here for sleeping before we interact with the next item. So we'll do this at 300 to 600. And then from here, it'll do all this. And then now I want to add a sleep here so that it doesn't automatically go back to it. Because player animating false, that Boolean will take a second to turn on, depending on how quickly it can detect that you are animating. So we'll add a small sleep here. We'll sleep random 2,000, 3,000. Oh. Now I am doing a line edit. We are going to reload the script. Don't do this if you're not used to it, or if you're not used to Script Factory. Probably shouldn't. Actually, we're not doing that. Alright, let's do sleep random 2,000, 3,000. Okay. So now this should all be good. This will detect if you gain a level or if for some reason you become interrupted. It'll end up doing this whole portion again. Alright, so then now we're going to set up a detection for if we're done fletching. We're going to turn task is fletching false, and we're going to do task is banking true. So to do that, we're going to do another check here for task is fletching. If that is true, we're going to do if inventory does not contain, we'll do if inventory does not, actually let's do item with text. We'll do logs, ends with, okay, and then we're also going to do a check for, oh, I'm sorry, completely forgot to add in the whole widget portion of detecting what we're going to be fletching. So let me go ahead and add that in real quick before we do all this. Alright, so if task is fletching is true, and then we're actually going to do this manually. So we'll turn on widgets, and then we'll click on this. So this will be a little widget class for you guys. Let me turn the paint off. Alright, so if you click on widget debug for OSBot, this will show you your certain widgets that you can see. Alright, so when we use the knife on here, Which, let's do interact. Yep. We're not going to do a sleep here because we don't want it to take that long. We'll do a smaller sleep like this one here. Add that there. All right, so widgets, if you turn that on, you can hover over these. You can see green, red, and white on these boxes. That corresponds with the green, red, and white on the right-hand side. So 270 is going to be the first box that it's going to give you. 15 is going to be that child, and then 38 will be the subchild. So we're going to end up fletching, let's do maple longbows. And currently, let me see if I can move this down. You'll see, actually there isn't, well that's good. There isn't actually a space option yet because we haven't interacted with it. But so your first interaction, you can't just press space. But from there on, you technically could just use space to interact, which we can write that in as well. So the first one, we're going to do 270.1638. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this here, your new file, and I'm just going to write this down so I don't have to come back to it. Alright, so 270.1638, and, or actually, even easier, you guys can't really see it up at the top, but if you look up at the top, it says maple longbow, make maple longbow. That would actually be your widget contains text. So we'll use that instead so that we don't have to. One moment. Let me turn this radio down. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so going back to this. If you hover over this, you'll see maple longbow. We can use widget contains text rather than actually using the widget IDs. So we'll do that instead to make it easier. So we'll just do a check for widgets. If visible contains text, maple longbow. Okay. And then we're going to interact with that widget. Then we'll do widgets. We'll do interact containing text, maple longbow, and the action is going to be make. Now we do want to put in a sleep here. Now we can do, want a little bit of a longer sleep. We'll do a sleep random 500 to 1000. Okay, put that there. So this will end up making it, and then this will not be able to turn true because player animating will not be false. We do want to add that sleep on the end. Just do 1 to 2 seconds. Okay. Alright, so now this task should end up going well. Alright, so to turn this task false, we're going to use the same thing. So if task is fletching is true, and we're going to do if inventory does not contain actually, yeah, if inventory does not contain logs, wait, sorry, this should actually be if inventory does contain. Change that. Sorry guys, I'm botching this this lesson. Alright, so if inventory contains,
I think you're doing fine.
thanks Sheets. So if inventory contains logs, if it contains knife, if player is not animating, we're going to use the knife on the logs, and then we will create the maple longbow. Now we're going to check for if we do not have logs, then task is fletching is true. Then we will turn this to false. So we're just going to do variables, Boolean, edit Boolean, task is fletching false, and then we'll also turn on task is banking. So edit this Boolean, task is banking, true. We also want to do a check for if inventory is full, because it should be full. Okay, so we'll set that to true, banking, and then we're going to go ahead and run this method just so that you guys can watch this happen, and then we'll write the banking method after this, and then we should be able to put it all together and have a working script. And then we'll go into VS Code and I'll move some things around. I'll show you guys how to use VS Code to edit your script. for organization purposes, not necessarily to, make edits to your script. But all right, so let's go ahead and get the debugger open, and we'll go ahead and press play. All right, so there it goes. It's gonna woodcut. Mouse comes off the screen. And we're gonna turn on the mouse. Just so you guys can see the mouse. All right, so now task is woodcutting is gonna end up turning false. And unless I did it incorrectly, hold on. Let's see here. Okay, task is woodcutting true if inventory is full, if inventory contains knife, that's what I did wrong. Same thing here. So yeah, this should be this one. Okay, we'll delete that. You'll see task is fletching turns true, woodcutting turns false. So now we'll start our fletching task. And so let's see, did I do the same thing here? So 7. Okay, if widget containing text is visible, maple longbow. Let's add here if widget does not contain text, or if not visible contains text. Because we don't want it to do this method when it's visible. Okay. So that must not be reading off of that widget. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and use the widget ID then. So we know 270.163 is the widget ID. I don't know if that's an OS bot issue or if that's just, I don't know. But let's do.
I think it's an OS bot issue because if you hover over that widget and see how that text is a different color
Yeah.
on the maple longbow, I think it has something to do with that containing text. It requires the color because
Gotcha.
whenever Sellout made his gold ring script for crafting,
Yeah.
he had to have that color ID, and if you don't have it, it won't interact properly.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll go and use the widget because we already collected it earlier, and we'll use that to determine whether it should do what it needs to do. Okay, so we'll press play. Oh, you know what? I have to set this interact with widget containing text. So we're gonna edit this. We're gonna actually pause this real quick. Okay, we're gonna add a new line here. Widgets interact. So the root is 270, child is 16, 38 is the sub, and we're gonna do make. Okay, delete that, and we'll go and press play. There we go. And I probably should have added a mouse move off screen. So I'll add that in. Boom. And you guys will get used to it. Like, you're never going to write a perfect script right from the start. It's a lot of debugging your own script and seeing where it's going wrong. You can easily use this whole section right here to determine where you're having issues at. If it keeps flashing trying to run a certain node, you could see, maybe you have a check that's incorrect that should be not there. All right, so here in a second, it's going to end up turning task is banking true and fletching false. There you go, task is banking is true. Now, woodcutting ended up turning true because fletching turned false, and we don't have these items. So we can add checks up here for set Boolean task is woodcutting true. Let's do if inventory is empty. Or I'm sorry, not that. If inventory is not full. If inventory is not full, then it would end up setting that to true. All right, so we'll save this as class 3. Okay, let me reopen this real quick. Now it's not going to end up turning the banking task true yet. After this, I'm going to show you guys how to actually set up a detection on what it should be doing, but let me go ahead and just do this. We're going to just press plus. We're going to set that true, and then we're going to turn it false. All right, so now task is banking is true, and then now we'll write out. So if task is banking is true, wow. Okay, get Boolean value. Task is banking is true. If area does not contain my player, do Camelot Bank failsafe. Remember, that's the bigger area. And then we'll do if inventory is full. And then we'll do a walk to area. We're going to do the smaller version. We'll do local walker. Ignore checks. Okay. So now it's going to go ahead and walk over here. And then also, we can go and copy this task. Paste it again. Now we can do if area contains my player. Camelot Bank failsafe. If Alright, so that's another thing. So we actually, this was the first method, and we didn't set up any checks here. So we need to actually do, let's set this Boolean to if woodcutting is true. Okay, task is woodcutting true. Perfect. Okay. If my player is within area, Camelot Bank failsafe. Now we can do if players at closest bank. Okay, and now we want to also check if bank is closed. We're going to open the bank. Okay, so now it will open the bank when I press play. Now I can do the same thing. Task is banking. If bank is open. Okay. If inventory is full. We do deposit all except items. Actually, let's see here. Do we have a deposit? We don't. We don't have a deposit all except or containing text. Okay. Well, we're gonna use my specific items for now, but we can show a workaround for that later. We would just end up using that item that we're creating. But so we're gonna do deposit all except rune axe and knife, and then let me see here. So this woodcutting task. Let's see how we're gonna turn this true. If my player is not within, yep. If inventory contains that, okay. Walk to area. So this one here. We're actually going to delete this because we don't need this. We just want to check to see that. Alright, perfect. Okay, now we can, when we set up the task detection, we can determine whether a task should be true or false. So currently this will end up cycling through, and then it'll end up walking back to the bank. However, we're going to basically take, we're going to set up a method to turn that false. The task is banking false. Alright, so to start, let me go and save this. I'm going to kind of edit everything, move it all around, and we're going to determine what all we still need to add. And then we're also going to do that task detection portion. Okay, so what I'm using is VS Code to edit. It's a lot easier because we have this little plugin here. Okay, so I always like to start with setting my scripts for all of your Booleans to turn true or false. I like to have those up at the top, and then your methods will be down at the bottom. We can even add in some methods for like debugging of what method is what. So I'm going to add those in real quick. Just going to do a comment. Task is woodcutting, and we're only going to add one. Okay, we're going to save this. And we're going to go and stop. Okay. So this will end up loading this in. What you can do here, again, don't edit your methods, but you can copy them. You can paste them multiple times. You can change these numbers. And now we want to do task is woodcutting, task is fletching, and we could change this one to task is banking. Okay, and we'll put those in where they need to go after this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause the script. We're going to log out, and can move that for now. Okay, so we don't want this at the top. So what I always like to do is I'll copy these, and I'll put them down at the bottom. So I kind of just separate everything to start. Again, you may not want to do this if you're not like comfortable with it. You don't have to. You don't even have to have your scripts in order. It really doesn't matter. But for me, this is how I like to do my stuff. So I always like to have a check for setting it true, and then I want to have one right after it for setting it false. And I've already pasted this method, so I'm going to delete it. It's down below. You can space these out as well. Okay, so then this one here, this is part of the woodcutting task. So I'll copy that. You can actually press Control X and it'll cut it. And I'll set this underneath this woodcutting task. And then, so if my player is animating, so I do want this up here at the top. This is part of my setup. We want this part, yep. And this one, yep. Okay. This part is also part of the woodcutting. Pop this in here. And we can actually delete that. Okay. This part's part of the fletching, so is this one, and so is this one. So we'll just copy all this. Paste this under the fletching portion. And we can even space out these methods just to add a little bit more visual representation. Okay. So we're going to edit these Booleans. Yep. Okay, this one here, we do not have our task as banking on this. So we should probably copy this. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have it. It's just kind of out of order. I always, when I'm using task detection, I like to keep this on top so I can easily determine what task I'm on just by looking at the first line. So this part is the task is banking. So we can go and take that and we could pop it right under here. Okay, so this one here, task is woodcutting. Let's take that and put it back up here. Okay, now a lot of you guys might be confused on what the hell I just did, but it's pretty simple. So now you're just going to end up changing your method numbers here to go in order, but we also want to remember like what we still want to add to it so that we don't have to method shift anything in the GUI. Something that Sheets also told me, I know I've been telling you guys to hold click and then press Alt Shift and then drag down, but you can actually just click like in front of this number. Now I can let go, I can move my mouse wherever. I can click Alt Shift and then I can click right after this number and it does that same thing. So I can, you know, start adding whatever I want here. So I'm going to actually set this to 0. Actually, I'm going to set this to 1. I'm going to add a comment up here for, you know, just setup, which will set this as 0. And I can just double click this number, put this as 0, and we'll just make this as setup script. Okay. Now this does not matter what it says. It's not going to change anything in your script. It's just a comment for your visual. Okay, so we want to add a task is woodcutting false. So we want to make sure that we keep 2 open. 3 is fine, 4 is fine, 5 is fine. We also want to add in the Booleans to check for fletching false or true and your banking false or true. So we're going to keep those open as well. So we'll have 0, 1, we'll add 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll need 6, 7 open, 8, and 9 open. So we can go ahead and start the next portion at method 10. Should have set this to 10, and then we'll Alt Shift, click here, add a 1 there. That's good. Now this here will be 11. This here is going to be 12. And this can be 13. This here can also be 13 because your comment, as long as it's above your method, It's not like you can't put this down here and expect it to stay there when you open it. It's always going to go to the top, but we can keep the comment as method 13. It's not going to make any difference. All right, so the same thing for this. We'll go down, we'll do 14 here. We'll set this one as 15. And then this one's going to be 16. And then this can also be 16. 17 for this one. And then finally 18. Okay. So now, and you actually can leave these all spaced out. You don't have to close them all before opening your script. But now, so we have 6, 7, and then 8 and 9 open. So we'll go ahead and add to those. So all you don't have to click File, Save. You can actually just press Control S, and then it saves it for you. And now you can go ahead and open your script. Do class 3. Okay, so now you'll see everything is set up in a good condition. It's nice and easy to see how we want this to work. So setup script, we have 1, 2 is open here, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9 is open. So we'll go and add in the method for 2. And this is going to be to set the task as woodcutting false. So we'll just add a new line in here, and we'll put if task as woodcutting is true. Okay. And can you guys still see my screen pretty good or no?
Yeah,
I
looks
can
good.
see you good.
All right, cool. All right, so if this task is woodcutting is true, now we need to determine how we're going to set it false. So let's say if our inventory is full, now we know that we need to start fletching, so we could just easily add if inventory is full, and then we could set this to false. There we go, Boolean, edit Boolean, task is woodcutting, turn it to false, and that's as simple as it is. All right, so now we'll add on for 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 6 will be basically turning fletching as true. And the only reason why we're adding this is, let's say that you stopped your script, right, and you have a full inventory of logs, and normally we turn task as fletching true after we detected this, but we also want to be able to detect it while the script just starts with this condition set. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there and loop. So that's why we're going to add another detection in here. So let's do if get Boolean value, task is fletching is false. Okay, we'll make this method 6. And for anybody that doesn't know, I can use hotkeys. If you notice here, I can just press plus or minus, and it'll change this number. All right, so if task is fletching is false, let's do if inventory is full. Let's do if inventory contains item with text. We're going to do logs, ends with, okay. Or, right, so we could put an or value. Let's say that we logged out while we were fletching, and our inventory is full. Actually, I'm sorry, that still works that way. I was looking at it as if the get amount of item logs was 28. All right, so yeah, that works perfectly. So now we can do task is fletching is true. So let's do get Boolean value. I'm sorry, not get Boolean. Let's do edit Boolean. Task is fletching true. Okay. And now we got to set this one as false. So now we'll do if this Boolean is true, because remember, we're checking to see if it's true, and now we want to turn this to false. So what we can do if inventory is full. Okay. If inventory does not contain item with partial text, logs ends with, okay. Now we can set this to false, because we can't fletch if there's no logs in inventory. I'm sorry, going all over the place. Okay, task is fletching, we'll turn this to false. Okay, so then, oh, I just noticed, so these methods all have to be shifted to 7. Okay, now we're going to do 8 and 9, so this is the banking portion. So let's do a check for if task is banking is true, or I'm sorry, if it's false, because we want to determine to set it to true. If inventory is full, and then if inventory does not contain partial text or partial text logs, it's basically the exact same thing. Now we can set this to true, so that it goes in banks. So edit this Boolean. Task is banking, true. Okay. And now we also want to check to set it false. So same thing. Boolean. Oh my gosh, I gotta click. There we go. Okay, get Boolean value. Task is banking is true. Oh, there we go. So just to let you guys know, the reason why it went down is because we didn't select the line that we wanted it to set to. So we'll put that in right there. Alright, so now we need to add a new line there. Okay, if this is true, if inventory is not full, if inventory does not contain item with text logs, ends with, okay, and if inventory does not contain item with text longbow U, oh, what did I do? There we go. Okay. Gonna add a new line. We're gonna set this to task is banking false. Okay. So everything should be pretty good. And actually, technically, we could just do if inventory is not full, we could set task is banking to false, because that's pretty much our check is going to be if, you know, inventory is full, then we're going to go and bank. So for that purpose, we're actually just going to go and delete this. Yeah, so if inventory is not full, we're setting this task, or yeah, setting that task to false. All right, so now we have pretty much a full script. The last part is going to be just debugging it. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pause my screen. All right. So now I can click play. And we can watch this automatically detect what task we should be on. All right. Let's see. Okay, so it didn't. So now we can detect what we did wrong. So, and it should be on the woodcutting method. So task is woodcutting is true. Let's do, we can actually just take that out there because we're just checking if the inventory is not full. And there we go. Task is woodcutting turns true. All right. So now it's going to interact. It's going to move the mouse outside of the screen, and it'll go ahead and woodcut until full inventory, and then it should do everything else. So while we wait, does anybody have any questions?
No, so far so good. That was actually like this is awesome. I was looking for Boolean info, so this was a good course.
Perfect. Yeah, so pretty much just to kind of show you guys, like, to go over again the whole task system, we use this, like, so if let's say we weren't woodcutting or fletching, because you wouldn't use this for woodcutting or fletching or banking. You would want to use this for, like, let's say that you had to get a quest requirement for 13 magic, or you just wanted to get 13 magic for a script. You would want to set a task boolean for getting 13 magic. So every time that you have that method to get the 13 magic, we're going to set that boolean to true. So for each method, we're going to call on that. So if that task is true, we're going to do that task. If that task is completed, which will have a detection to turn that false. So basically, you know, you'd put if skill level magic is greater than or equal to 13, we can set that get 13 magic, we can set that false. So that way it'll go and detect what the next portion should be. So that's basically the whole point of using the Boolean system. Now instead of adding multiple checks in everywhere, we can just set it to, a certain task. If this task is true, this will only do these methods when this task is true. So again, you could see every single check, we've got a check here for if it's true. If this one's true, it's only going to do these when this is true. Same for the whole banking portion. That way you're not going to have multiple conflicting methods. So that's pretty much the basis of using Booleans in a task system. We've also learned creating pretty much a fletching or a woodcutting, fletching, and banking script as well. It's super simple. We used 18 methods in this whole thing. It's not difficult at all. Anybody can use Script Factory. It's just about the time that you're willing to put in to create it. And then from here, you can go more in depth. When you've actually created the base of your script, that's when you want to go into, adding more anti-ban to it. You don't want to just start right off the bat, oh, I'm going to add all this anti-ban in to make the script, work flawless and everything. You want to write out the base of your script, and then you can add to it and add all those, pretty features to it. So technically, I could just go in and multiply this woodcutting method, just like we did the other day, and I can add an efficiency anti-ban to this woodcutting method. So that way it sleeps for a longer time, depending on its efficiency level. Or it starts doing other anti-ban, like opening the skills tab or opening the friends tab, or even sending a friend a message, depending on that system. And that also kind of works the same way how we use the integer to detect whether we were on high efficiency, medium efficiency, or low efficiency. That's the same basis of using the Boolean system. You could use this same setup with integers rather than Booleans. But again, getting Booleans out there to teach that's why we're doing this on that. Any just questions over Script Factory? Any methods that you guys want to learn for a future script or anything at all?
I think so far I'm pretty good. There's quite a bit to take in here, and yeah, like think about. So I'll definitely have questions in a little while.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, LOLK hacks. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but is there anything that you want to learn that you haven't learned yet on Script Factory? If you don't want to talk, it's fine. It's cool. A lot of people ignore me.
It's a learned behavior.
All right, so let's see if we stop animating. Just to go over this animating timer again. So you guys see, animating timer is running, so we know not to animate. So there, it's going to turn false. This Boolean turns false. Now we can detect that we need to do something. So it's going to start this, and there you go. Now I did mention we can use space in there instead, which you would just write out another method for this whole fletching system. You could set your first integer to do, interact, and then after that we could set that integer to just use space afterwards. So if you guys want to see that, I can write that out real quick. It's up to you. Actually, I think I'll go ahead and write that out right after we see that all this works. So you guys seen task is banking, turn false, task is fletching, turn true. And then now you're going to see woodcutting will end up going how it's supposed to. I'm sorry, not woodcutting, banking. And actually, so how we have this all set up, we could delete these and it would run perfectly fine how it's supposed to. And all right, so that is that was weird. There we go. Task is woodcutting turns true. So I'm actually just going to delete these out of here. Because we don't even need, oh, you know what? I do need to set this. I don't technically need this one here, because we already have that to turn true or false depending on what it's supposed to do. Sorry, I'm just going through and deleting unnecessary stuff. Same with this one, because we wrote out a task system to detect what it should be doing. Okay, and all should be good now. Okay, yeah, so I think that's pretty much the whole class. I'll write out this whole fletching portion real quick just to show you guys an example. So basically what we're going to do is we'll do this, and then we'll do create an integer. We'll just do first fletch. And we'll keep this value as 0. Okay. We're going to add that integer in here, the integer that we just created. And we're just going to do get integer. Remember, get is the check. So if first fletch equals 0, okay, then it's going to end up interacting this way. Now we can multiply this method. Oh, I'm sorry. What we also want to do is we're going to set this integer to 1 because we know it was originally 0. This was the first fletch. This is the first interaction. Now we're going to set this to 1. So we can integer, we're going to do a perform operation. We're setting this as 1, first fletch. And you could set this as 1,000 if you wanted to. It's not going to make a difference, but we're just setting it as 1. Okay. And then now we can add this new line here. And we can make this method 15. And now we're going to check for if this widget is visible. Okay. And we can go ahead and do if integer get integer equals 1. So now we know that this is not our first interaction, or this first fletching. So now we can do the sleep random, and then we can just do the spacebar. Keyboard, press space. Okay, and then we can move the mouse outside of the screen. And we'll add our sleep random back. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we're just going to set this to fletching real quick just to show you guys the integer change. Let's see here. Task is fletching. Put that as true. Nope. Oh, that's
So this integer change is just changing the way it does the fletching, right? So it's kind of just to change up the variance, or
yeah. So normal person, they're gonna click to fletch, and they're gonna interact the first time, and then from there on, they're just gonna press the space bar because they don't want to move the mouse over and click the actual object.
Okay, sweet. So integers would be better at adding things like variance compared to things like Booleans if you didn't want to add a bunch of checks to it, right? Or
Yeah.
is that kind of?
I mean, essentially, anything that you're going to use an integer for, you could probably use a Boolean for, and vice versa. But integers are more complex. Like, you can use multiplication for setting integers. Like, if you wanted to, I mean, I don't even know a good example to use, but basically, like, all right, so every time you see how you get some maple logs, we could set that on an integer to determine, if we've received X amount of maple logs, and then we can set that to a random roll. If integer is between X amount and X amount, then we can tell it to sleep for a certain portion of time.
Oh, okay.
So just, yeah, you could use that way if you wanted to. But
Okay.
what was
Cool.
your
That's a big question I had about integers once we went over like the crabbing script, right? Because I was just a little bit confused about that, but no, that makes sense now.
Yeah. We need to set task is woodcutting false. 2. Well, alright, so for this, it's working too well. So it's, there we go. Now it's going to start. So you're going to see integer is going to change here. There we go. So integer changes to 1. So now on the next task, it'll end up just using the spacebar rather than hovering the mouse over it and clicking. And then just to show you guys again, we deleted all these where it sets the next Boolean to true or false. We deleted everything. So now it's only going to go off of our detection, which is right up here, turning it true or turning it false. Same with this one, turning it true or false and turning it true or false. So you'll see that this should work flawlessly. If it doesn't, then we'll figure out what the issue is, but shouldn't have any issues. Fingers crossed. Okay, yep, banking turns true. We're going to walk to the bank. And now for this one, we could actually add a sleep here because we don't want it just to walk to the bank immediately. So we can add, you know, a 2 to, I don't know, 4-second sleep. There we go. And now it detects that it should be woodcutting again. And it will start woodcutting. So walking to that area, so that's just because it's trying to walk to, you know, that exact area. It's a smaller area, and that's why it's clicking it multiple times. We could probably change that up by, well, yeah, no, there's not walk to exact, but we could probably change that up to using, you know, a click on position. I don't know. What do you think, Sheets? I mean, it's not that bad. It's just not as human-like.
What, where it clicks on that one tile?
Yeah. That's pretty
Did
much
you use
just the way it is.
position?
No, it's an area. It's a smaller area though.
I'm assuming it has a non-walkable tile.
Yeah, probably. Yep, it does. So you guys see a bird's nest falls out of the tree. We could technically, you know, set it to pick that up depending on if this message was there. And since we're using threaded sleeping, which again is just the whole player animating Boolean, we would be able to detect that versus if we were sleeping while animating, we would not be able to detect that message. So just a fun fact. Threaded animation is a huge factor in a lot of my scripts that I always use, and it's the one big thing that the Shadow, the user the Shadow, he taught me, and I've always used it. I never used if my player is animating anymore, just because that is not always true, because you'll always see your animation, it'll end up changing sometimes on the skill that you're doing. So just a fun fact.
Okay, sweet. It's good to know.
Sky Muffins, did you have any questions at all? You can comment in the OSR script factory thing if you do. If not, then it's all good. So we're currently just waiting on inventory to become full, and then you'll see that it's not going to hover over it, and it's to click, it's just going to press space. You won't see it press space, but you'll get the gist. All right, perfect. Yeah, that's a great question. So you can actually use the OSBot client if you just go to this settings tab right here. So if I'm here, I can click the settings tab, and under debug, you could see my player. So I can tick this true or false, or not true or false, but yeah, you get the gist. You'll see animation 867. That would be my woodcutting animation right now. When I'm not animating, that'll turn to -1. So the same for like if you're fishing or you're fletching. your animation's going to change depending on, yep, there you go, -1. All right, so task is woodcutting. True, we got one more. All right, so now fletching turns true. And you're going to see we pressed space. We didn't use the mouse. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it for the class. If you guys have any other questions, let us know before we go ahead and end it. And then I think that'll be it for the night.
No, man, that was beautiful. I will definitely be watching over the video that's uploaded for sure.
Perfect, sounds good. Alright, well, I will go ahead and post the script for anybody to use, and you can edit it. You can put in all of your own anti-ban methods in. Actually, for homework, I would like to, and this is it's kind of a troll. Nifty suggested this, but homework. If anybody wants to add in the efficiency method that we went over in class 2, add that to the script, add it to the woodcutting portion, and I just want to see you guys add in pretty much a longer sleep time for if you're in low efficiency. If you're in medium efficiency, you know, a medium sleep time, so kind of currently what it is. And then if you're in high efficiency, I want to see you make it interact quicker, but don't leave it at immediate interaction. I want it to still have a little bit of sleep. But I want to see you not move the mouse outside of the screen. I want to see you interacting with skill tabs. And I'm gonna pretty much set it to what, 2 days? What should we do? 2 days sheets. If you guys can get it done, and
Yeah, I
then
don't think that's a bad time.
yeah, 2 days. If you can get something going like that, I will give 5 mil. I know it's not a lot, but I'll give away 5 mil to the best script. So
Oh
uh,
shit!
this is only to people that are new to Script Factory. If you're uh, seasoned and you understand it, then you're not gonna get the money. But yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna post the script. Somebody edit it up, make it all working with that high efficiency, low efficiency, medium efficiency, and the winner, the one that works the best, the one that has the least flaws, um, you'll get the 5 mil prize. So, all right,
Okay, cool. All right, well, we'll give it a shot.
all right, sounds good. We're gonna go ahead and stop the class here, and then if you guys do have any other questions, just comment in the Discord, and we'll be able to help you guys out.
Awesome. Thanks for the course today. Appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. All right, guys, take it easy.